Hey everybody, I'm Davidson with RCJ Media Company, back again today talking with one of the co-hosts of the Shift Media podcast. And really excited to talk to Bill Schultz. Bill comes, he comes from us. He's the founder and CEO of Integrated Security Consultants. He's a U.S. Air Force police veteran.
Yeah, security police.
Awesome. You're a private investigator, security strategist, and co-host, of course, the Security Shift podcast. Over the past 3 decades, he's built a career spanning executive protection, investigations, business development, consulting, and emergency security technologies, helping organizations rethink how they protect their people, their assets, and their operations. He's known for challenging the conventional thinking, right? Bill believes that the future of security isn't about choosing between people and technology. It's about integrating them to produce better outcomes. So welcome to the show, Bill.
Thank you. Great being here today.
Yeah, great to have you.
Yeah.
So, for people probably know you on LinkedIn, right? Because you're pretty active on LinkedIn.
I'm emerging.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about Bill Schultz, right?
Yeah.
Talk about, where you grew up, a little bit about your childhood.
Yeah, absolutely.
Get into that a little bit.
So I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Yes, I am a Steeler fan.
I was going to ask.
Steeler fan. That's a big deal here coming up here, and training camp starts in a couple of weeks.
Yep.
So, it's a passion of mine. I love football. Played some football. I'll get into that in a minute. But so grew up in the outskirts of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Latrobe, Pennsylvania is actually where I grew up, and just had a really amazing middle class childhood. Where small town mentality. Lived in a small town on the outskirts of Pittsburgh, and everybody could leave their doors open and that type of thing. And everybody knew everybody in the town, so there's something to be said for that. But I moved away out of high school, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But, growing up, always real active, one of those kids that stayed out till the sun went down.
Yeah.
Playing a lot of sports, football, baseball, just running around, mainly staying out of mischief.
Yeah.
I think.
Trying to.
I had some stories, but that's for another episode. But so then, growing up, just family is a big deal, obviously, and real close to family. Grew up in a single parent household a chunk of my life till my mom remarried when I was 13. So I'm used to my mom was the male and the female model in the house,
right.
And that's my role model. I know you might ask me that a little bit, but that's one of my role models, my mom. But so growing up in that area, family, football is a big deal to me. I played high school football, ran track, wrestled a little bit, just a jock at heart, right? And hung around all diverse types of people, though, whether it be, people that you might call them skaters now, or the most popular person in the class. I'm the type of person that gets along with everybody, and it's really translated in my adult life and where I'm at in the security space. But graduated high school back there in '87 and joined the Air Force.
Well, thank you for your service.
Absolutely.
Too, yeah. My dad was Air Force. That's always
had a great time. We can get into that in a minute if we need to.
Yeah. So besides your mom, what other influences did you have growing up?
Yeah, I'd like to say probably a big influence is a lot of coaches in sports. Football coaches, track coaches. I feel that what I got out of it, if I could give you like lessons taken away from that, would be, giving my best and challenge myself. And there's been times I remember one time playing high school football where I had a coach pull me aside and totally challenge me. If he could, he'd probably try to kick my butt, but that wasn't even allowed then, really.
Yeah.
Couldn't put their hands on anybody. But he just challenged me, and it actually kind of got me emotional. I kind of cried to the point where, inside whether you're doing your best or not,
right.
No matter what. We look ourselves in the mirror, and we're the best version of ourselves. We know what we're given. So that'd probably be some of my influences. In addition to family members, my mom married a man that was very quiet, but at the same time led an example, was a hard worker.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hard working area, Pittsburgh, Steel Town. Now it's a big tech hub, but it's known as a place to do hard work and kind of a simple life, kind of a great place to grow up. It's still a great place to raise kids.
How would you say that your the influences that you had, specifically your coaches, right? How would you say that influenced your career or your life just in general as an adult?
Yeah, I think I think just overall, like you said, giving your best, preparing.
Mhm.
I think at the end of the day, I'm a big on preparation, whatever I do now, and I feel like I've elevated that. Just thinking deep and thinking about the whole outcome of where you want to go and what does it take to do that. And it take for athletics, it's spend time in the weight room or running sprints or doing things you don't want to do, doing the uncomfortable, right?
Right.
And I like to say that a lot right now. I'm in a space right now in all areas of my life, whether it be my faith or my business life or my personal life, just doing uncomfortable stuff, even like this right now.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Well, I mean, it's been proven over and over. Some of the most successful people were pushed outside of their comfort zone,
Yeah.
right? That's what makes you
Yeah,
better. That's what makes you grow, I think.
absolutely.
So yeah, definitely. So I guess you would say growing up and doing sports, I say you were naturally competitive then.
Oh,
You
absolutely.
know,
Yeah.
I
No, absolutely.
I could tell that about your personality
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Just a little bit that I known you.
Sure.
Um, was there any specific moment or event that you would say really changed the direction of your life?
I think it was actually joining the Air Force and, being not being sheltered in a small town, but I thought about growing up and as later in my teenage years, like a lot of people in that area don't want to stay there because there's not a lot to do. You don't want to maybe work in a factory or um, I don't know. I just felt like I wanted to create a new adventure, right?
Mhm.
I felt adventurous, and I hadn't had that experience until then. I think that curiosity started to come out when I joined the Air Force, and then I joined and actually joined, took the oath, and went in 1987.
And would you say that your experience in the Air Force is kind of what led you into this industry?
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's funny, and I say this a lot. I've written articles about this, and I kind of post about it where I use the word blended guarding right now. The combination of technology and manpower and systems and processes that makes up blended guarding.
Mhm.
But I joke around. I've been in blended guarding since 1987. I've had satellites. I've had F-15s, F-16s, C-130s, different gear, different types of radios. You understand, the different types of equipment that you could have that was maybe antiquated looking then. It's just new versions of it now, right? If that
Yeah.
makes sense, whether it be
Yeah.
a radio or comms and things like that. So,
Initially.
being in security police, I obviously had some methodology about industrial security and obviously physical security. That was mainly what my focus was. There's two different sides of the career field in the Air Force. There's more of the law enforcement side, give you the skills to potentially get to the traditional law enforcement option, or more of a security side of it. And I was on the physical or industrial security side where I secured airfields or
Mhm.
aircraft and things like that, high value targets.
So were
By
you an
by
MP then?
yeah.
Okay.
Ultimately, it's that in the Air Force they call it security police. Then now
Yeah.
it's actually called security forces. They
Okay.
changed the name of it.
Yeah.
So the roles in the Air Force, I wouldn't say I was, the levels of, Army infantry and things like that, but you learn lightweight infantry skills to defend air
Right.
bases. So that's a part of the equation, not just strictly someone drive around pulling people over. And I worked at gates and things like that
Mhm.
where I would have to deal with intoxicated officers and things like that. And those some pretty challenging
I'm
times.
sure. I'm sure, especially your
You
own
don't know what
peers,
to
right?
do. And
Yeah.
the officers have a lot of clout.
Yeah.
You're not sure what to do.
Yeah.
So.
Definitely. What was your driving force for wanting to join the Air Force? Right. I mean, you have so many choices in Army, Navy, Air
Yeah,
Force. What was there anything in particular
I
that drove you towards that, or just?
yeah, I think watching maybe a little bit of military movies, but it might have triggered a lot of people that I watched Top Gun,
Mhm.
and it was got me patriotic. I think
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I wasn't fueled in that time by necessarily having to serve or an event like a 9/11, like other people have had a little bit later.
Right.
I think it was just the desire to be part of something bigger. I think athletics probably played a part because I like being on a team, right?
Mhm.
I have a solo consultancy, but at the end of the day, all this collaboration I do nowadays is biggest part because I want to be on a team still. I like having a team,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's important to have a team in anything you do. You know, were there any experience that you experienced in the military that potentially tested your confidence level, or even in real life? Right? Is there anything that's really kind of tested your confidence?
Yeah, I think just the ability to perform duties under periods of stress. You
Mhm.
know, I could recall a time in a Central American environment where I had to use, you do all this training, and I might have a couple examples. Let me divert to that, but where you have all this training, wearing chemical gear or marksmanship or whatever, and you get to the point where you might need to use it in real life, and you're not sure what that outcome's going to be,
Right.
and you're wondering if your training was enough.
Yeah.
So I think that's something I even take away now when I'm working with people. Like, I'm real big on training and making sure that they're equipped. At the end of the day, we're only as good as what we're equipped with to do. So
Mhm. Which is something I think in our industry, we're kind of lacking on the training side, don't you think? You
yeah,
know.
I think some of the reasons behind that, it can be expensive at times.
Mhm.
Regardless of you're a technology firm or you're a security guard company, not just expensive, but it takes time. And we all want to use the word hacking our way to things.
Mhm.
We use AI to give us some ideas. We want to biohack our bodies to be stronger and
Right.
faster. And I like to think that that has its place and it's meaningful. But sometimes we just got to put the work in and sweat and put the hours in that we don't want to put in, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So training takes time and energy, and sometimes doing things you don't want to do.
Yeah. 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 Like, again, pushing people beyond their
Yeah.
comfortability level too. um, Looking back at your military training, right? Is there anything you learned from the military that influenced your business decisions today, or even some of your life decisions today?
You know, I wouldn't really say that. I don't think I had the curiosity for the business mindset
Mhm.
until a little bit later in life. So I wouldn't say that gave me. I think it just gave me the sense of unity and camaraderie and enjoying the collaboration. And I didn't know that then, but that would be a skill that I embrace. It's like one of the biggest parts of who I am
Right.
in the security space right now. I'm big on giving back to the industry, not just taking. I want to leave it a better place than I had it, and just enjoy that. I truly enjoy just embracing collaboration, helping others, and not afraid to ask how I can help other people.
Yeah. And growing up back east like I did, I grew up thinking, okay, I'm going to be a blue collar worker my whole life, right? Did you ever imagine that you would own your own company though? Did you ever think that was going to happen?
No, I didn't think that. I thought a little bit of the track, like for whatever reason, watching, one Adam 12, an emergency. I mean, the public safety and that whole first responder side was interesting to me. I
Yeah.
didn't think necessarily military at the time. I actually thought maybe I'd be in the FBI or something like that, something cool. And I didn't get to that goal, and nor did I need to get to that goal to be fulfilled where I'm at. I'm super happy with what I do now. But I think I didn't grow up around law enforcement, so I didn't have those exposures or military,
Mhm.
so I didn't know what that life was like. I think once again, just relating to my curiosity, curious nature,
Yeah.
has been something that I've always been. But I didn't never thought I'd own a company.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'll throw you a little bit of a curveball here because
yeah,
I know something about you that I find interesting
yeah,
is your interest in the fitness area,
yeah,
right? Tell
yeah,
me a little bit about that. I know
yeah,
you're
absolutely.
a trainer, right?
So yeah, no,
Yeah.
absolutely. No, again, this will be good for you to. You haven't even heard this either. So Um, I've been in security up until about 1995, and was going to school for exercise science at ASU, and started getting exposed to world class strength and conditioning specialists like Charles Poliquin, Paul Chek. If you look back at Muscle Media, I mean those guys were idols and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
I'd already been working out. I probably hit the gym and a recreational bodybuilder. Even then, I was probably about 220, and that was just eating and training and things like that, and always wanted to train like an athlete. And always admired the muscle guys in the magazines and all that.
Yeah.
So I started taking that a step further, and I worked in a health food store. Then I was personal training while I was doing that, and a bouncer. It's kind of like the perfect little, not the single lifestyle.
Yeah.
And then I would meet someone I had a daughter with during that time, but it was that mode of just learning all these different facets. So learning real holistic nutrition, not just like drinking a shake and eating a bar, but about herbs and supplements and all that. And just once again, getting curious, hanging around the right people, led me to a path where I did open up my own business actually in 1998. It was integrated health and performance.
Okay.
And it was a post-rehabilitation environment connected to a chiropractic physician. So I'd get referrals from the physician. Rehab had failed, or they needed a cash practice route. A lot of times insurance exhausts, and even to this date, and they needed somewhere to go. So I had an environment like that for about 2 years, and then had my own personal training practice, learned a lot about marketing and positioning myself, and ultimately a little bit of sales in that space. And then a couple of years later, I continued some of these deeper relationships with PTs and pain docs and all that, and worked in integrated environments, in a medical environment, a lot of spine care.
Oh.
So a lot of spine care, corrective exercise, and just kept being a study of the game, did internships under some really amazing people, have a lot of amazing friends, and it's been a big part of my life. So for about 13 years, I was in the fitness and healthcare space.
So you're
Taught me a lot of lessons.
You're encompassing everything, mind, body, and soul, right?
I feel that's kind of like how I look at it, and I even to this day, I still look at that. I still train, and secretly, not many people know this in the security world, and maybe, I'm broaching some new territories by, treating security and law enforcement personnel like athletes and tactical athletes. And I'm making connection in that space. And we'll be bringing some of those people to the podcast and into the circle to just better the human. I mean, I'm a big deal. I write about that a lot, where at the end of the day, I'm around a lot of cool training, a lot of cool technology. But at the end of the day, we still got to improve the human, not forget the human, right?
Yeah.
All the way from mindset, performance. So the mind, body, soul, spirit, whatever you want to call that, that's still in play in a big way in my world. And it's essential. A lot of people think he's the guy that sold a bunch of guards and he's loud as heck about tech right now. It's a lot more than that.
Yeah.
It's a lot of I'm a hell of a hassle, man. I got a lot going on up here.
So tell people about your company, right?
Yeah.
Kind of what you do and what,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
sure.
Integrated Security Consultants is a seed of a lot of experience working with man guarding primarily, and learning from people about that side of it, primarily from a sales perspective. I've been in business development. I worked 6 weeks in operations to start my private security sales career, and moved that up into a regional space. I'm kind of hitting the backstory here. I think it's worthy of the conversation. Just learning about different environments. I think sometimes learning what doesn't work, that you saw not work, and the client's pain, and create a consultancy that in the beginning, it was meant to be, in 2017, working on a fractional level with people. I was maybe a little bit ahead of COVID, that the virtual world was embraced like that. There wasn't as many, and people do Zoom meetings and all that then, but I had that environment, pegged that I was going to do that, but I had connected with someone that had a company that was more off-duty police, executive protection, private investigations, and did a lot of corporate environments. So I had my own consulting firm with him and with that company, but I got really busy just helping him out with his environments. A lot of corporate cases where private investigations, off-duty police, and armed security would kind of fit in there. So I'd like to say the past 9 years have been more, we talk about the arena from a guarding perspective, more of that upper edge element of those spaces where, executive protection, armed guards, maybe a little bit of technology and then private investigation. Just made a fit from a whole holistic toolbox to use with customers. I shifted a couple years ago to be a little bit more fractional and help other people, regardless of where they're at in the U.S. and even for that matter, the world. Not just from a manpower perspective, but really aggressively, and I'll get into that in a minute at a deeper scale, but blended guarding, with bringing this technology to the table. That's its own little section itself coming up. But I embracing ultimately blended guarding is the combination of manpower, technology, processes, people, and all that to form to use the word of my business name, but an integrated approach to how you do security operations. There's a lot of other depth in my mind that comes to that. Utilizing people like Daniel, my co-host, for assessments and evaluation, whether it be using tech or traditional methods. I like to think that I have all the tools in my toolbox that encompass the whole ecosystem, not just any one new tool or old tool. I think it's about using the whole toolbox to build the house, right?
Right.
You need a whole toolbox. And everything has a different application at different times. And that's how I see it. Stay real open-minded, right?
Yeah. I mean, I've been doing this for 20 years on the electronic security side, right? And one of the biggest things that I noticed about my career is, you have your physical security and your electronic security, right? They've always been kind of separate. There's always been a wall between them. But now you're starting to see, like your term, blended security, right? You're starting to see that. What are the biggest changes over the years that you've been doing security? What are the biggest changes you've seen for the positive in the industry?
Well, I think obviously the emergence of the technology. And at one time, I used to go to meetings and I would sell an unarmed guard service, and they would tell me, hey, we're getting this camera. I was never a part of that equation.
Right.
And I started realizing a couple of years ago, I'm like, well, that stakeholder or that buyer of security, wouldn't it be good if I was able to have knowledge about all, or knew who to bring into bring to the table? And I feel that's where I'm at right now. I'm not the one-all solution where I know everything. I feel like I just know what tools or people to bring into that. So it's been interesting in breaking down these silos, even including the cyber side of it. Like I'm involved in InfraGuard, which is an organization that's been primarily known being on the cyber side. And I think at the end of the day, a lot of people don't know this, but they're very big on the physical security side. They have a lot of subject matter experts in critical infrastructure. I mean, that's one of the most amazing organizations I've recently been involved with. And I'm involved with ASAS on the local Phoenix level as well. Those environments have allowed me to meet amazing people, humans, and we do cool stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I like to say this, that I hang around cool people and I get the opportunity to do cool stuff. And I have another word for that, but I'm going to stay PC here for this. But I hang around cool people and I do cool stuff. It's not because I'm anybody special. I think I just have the curiosity, and it's led to me working anywhere from around 10 to 15 logos right now, which I've never really told you that.
Yeah, that's cool.
And some of them are emerging, and I'm evaluating everything. It's just a fun time to be curious with technology.
Yeah, definitely, especially now. So you're not really selling security, right? You're solving business problems. Where did that mindset kick in? How did that come about for you?
It's funny. I go back and I relate this, and I have written articles about this even where I'll have to send you some of those. But I engineer that all the way back to the fitness and healthcare days. I'm used to working with allied professionals. It might be a PT, it might be a naturopath, it might be yoga, it might be an osteopath. Different allied healthcare professionals solve problems together, and they refer to each other, and they're not afraid of it.
Right.
Doctors aren't, I should say this. Like I worked around a lot of chiropractic physicians as well. So sometimes like these people are afraid to refer to each other, but the good ones are not worried about that. They're used to referring to each other. So I think that methodology just kept continuing later into my career. Now, I think in the beginning, all I sold was, some armed guards and some unarmed guards. That was all the tools that I had. But as I evolved and watched people's problems, I learned, hey, my mind works the way it works, right? That's just what I've always had available. So I know, like, I want to put things together and solve problems, not just have any one tool to do it. And it's obviously got to prove itself out in the result.
So it pretty much comes naturally to you.
I feel that's like, I'm eclectic by nature.
Yeah.
So I like all kinds of music, all the way from country to hip hop to trance. I mean, there's not much that I don't listen to as far as music.
Yeah.
Same thing with food. I'm what's the word I want to use? I'm strategically indecisive. It's probably a good word to say. But, it's fun. It's entertaining. I'm not bored because I have a lot of options, right? At the end of the day, I think, when you want to decide what you want to eat and you like different types of food or whatever, you have options, right?
Yeah.
But all kidding aside, having real options to get a real ROI that we watch either through case studies or they've just been around for a good bit, right? There's a lot of new emerging players in the AI and technology space, and we have a lot to watch and a lot to prove still, right?
Yeah.
So I think my overall nature, to your point, just is generally how I'm wired.
Yeah.
And I'm having the most fun with it because of that.
Yeah. I can tell. What would you say is probably the toughest sales lesson you've ever learned?
Toughest.
Yeah.
I would say the toughest sales lesson is being around a brand that you work for, that you sell, and they want you to sell a dog and pony show, and your organization does not have the operational frequency to fulfill what you're promising. That's a hard place to be.
Yeah.
They want you to do this, and you have the lingo, and that they should do this.
Yeah.
But they can't really do it. And I use the word operational frequency, where organizations, not just guard companies, but companies want to look like something that they're not.
Yeah.
And then they can't, they have the great marketing material, the great sizzle video. But when it comes times the rubber meets the road, either something fails with the product and the service, or even the customer service side of it, right? I mean,
true. Yeah.
That's big. We're a little bit more mature here, and we look at that as a big deal still. Customer service still matters.
Yeah.
You
should.
take it serious.
Yeah, definitely. You ever lost a deal?
I've lost plenty of deals, and those are the learning lessons that help you win, though. And I actually, that's one of the reasons why in this, this emergence of tech right now, I'm not so worried about losing deals because I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned. We don't, like, in this space, and I think it comes even all the way down to just selling services, we're not always sure what the customer really wants. Sometimes they're not sure.
Yeah.
Part of it is educating the customer of what's available, maybe about the state of the market, and helping them to teach them how to be better evaluators of their environment to steer them to that tool.
Yeah.
In my past, I've sold, manpower, things like that. Like I said, I didn't think maybe the company I worked with could totally fulfill that, but I sold it anyways. And, there's lessons to be learned in that. And I think, going back to your question to a certain point, a lot of my biggest triumphs have been from the losses.
Yeah.
That's any athlete, right? We lose championship games. That's where the triumph happens, right?
That's a fact. Yeah. I'm gonna throw one at you here. That's has my curiosity piqued. So, have you ever had to reteach a client? Right? I mean, I noticed in my experience, there's a lot of bad information that floats out there. Right? Customers are misinformed or ill-informed. Yeah. Does it take you a lot more effort to go back through and retrain these clients? To be able to win that sale.
Yeah, I think a lot of times every company wants you to sell. If you go to interview for a job interview, I'm a little bit different. I'm a channel partner with a lot of products, so like I'm on my own. If I make something happen, they're happy with it. Yeah. But I'm not meeting quotas and things like that. But when you're selling something for someone, there's a little bit of pressure involved, right? If you're a part of their team. But at the end of the day, the relational sales is the win, right? Not the transactional sale.
Yeah.
There's long marathons to be run in these games. They're not just sprints, right? So, but yeah, sometimes I've had a situation where I was in game with an actual win, but like it's about nurturing that. So sometimes, I use the word joke around, but any monkey can win a deal, but then what are you going to do to maintain that for the long term, right? Right. And my experience in the security guard space is can win a deal, or I watch companies win a deal, but then you either get told by the client that they're unhappy with them because they're not doing this. It's really about nurturing them, keep educating them. So staying, we're all guilty of not a lot of listening, right? We want to push our product to make the sale and the transaction. Hey, you're good to go, and then move on to the next one. I like to think that, sometimes we have to re-engineer and just take our time, and with this tech right now, adoption is slow, even though these products are amazing. We just have to truly educate the buyers of security or the buyers of anything, whatever you're selling, right? We all want value out of what we buy.
Yeah. And would you say that the nurturing part of that and the customer service side of it, would you say that was your biggest driving factor for starting the company?
No, I think starting this part of it, I'd already been a part of organizations and I saw where some of the pain lied.
Right.
And maybe even, full-fledged capabilities to the way that the culture was in the company. I'm a big believer in company cultures. And I think a lot of problems start, like specifically, I'm just going to kind of call it out, but in the guard industry, the CEO, they're not really representing what they really are. I think we're better served in the business world for us to be our true colors, right? If you have a certain skill set, be really darn good at that skill set and stay within your means. But I think it gets so competitive and we're so pressured to grow and win financially that I think we lose track of how we should be doing it. So I think just and I learned a lot of amazing lessons too. I wouldn't say it's all bad, but I think at the end of the day, a lot of founders you'll find that will learn lessons based on the wins and losses, not just all the losses, and mainly wins. I've been really blessed to have a lot of scenarios in my growth through my security career with people that did mainly do it right, or still do it right now, and some of the relationships I have today still. And they're still doing right, or they've even raised the bar even higher. So, one of them was on a recent episode. So, but anyways, that's been the driving force for it. Not necessarily like a driving moment or like that to do that. I think sometimes people get triggered to help because they just get tired of seeing the customer not taken care of.
Yeah.
I think that triggers a lot of people, and we know that exists today. That's probably a component to it, I would say.
So here's a deep question for you. So if you had to start over tomorrow, no contacts, right? No reputation, what would be the first thing that you would do?
Yeah. Well, I say this in no ego. People say it about me and they know me. I'm that guy can meet you at a coffee shop and we're probably going to maybe talk. We might be friends. We might even do business together. I don't know. Or you'll invite me to a party and I'm going to know more stuff about your friends than maybe you do because I'm just that person. Not because I'm popular, anybody special. I got a God-given ability to be a natural connector. So without any contacts or reputation, start from ground zero and not even hitting the pavement. I think just building real, tangible connections that have real purpose. And everybody I meet in my life, out personal and professional, meaningful conversations, right? And I learn from people and they learn from me. And I think that's where it would lie for me is just being a born collaborator that likes hanging around people, enjoys people, and start right there. And I wouldn't worry about them. I wouldn't worry about them because given my ability to be able to, as long as I have the God-given ability to speak to people and show up and present myself, I'd have an opportunity probably almost doing anything.
That's a great answer. I don't know if I'd be able to answer the same way or not.
Dan will say that too, probably about me.
Would you say, so your experience in the security industry, would you say that the industry in itself is keeping up with modern day risks?
I'd like to say yes in some ways, in some organizations. I think it's kind of scattered across the board. We talked about this today in a webinar that was produced today, where, I recently wrote a LinkedIn article about this, where the segment that's best prepared to potentially look at this from the right way is the executive protection space. And the reason why I say that is their preparation of evaluating and what needs to be done is at a lot higher level.
Mhm.
So I think those organizations that prepare and evaluate that risk properly with technology tools that exist, such as protective intelligence tools, or not, and traditionally
Mhm.
can help out with that. So I think it's very scattered across the board. I wouldn't use the terms that the majority of security guard organizations are actually effective at doing that, because that's not what their kind of not what their mission is. And I don't want to like to use the word that guard companies are staffing organizations, because I'm in that space and I work with those companies. A lot of them are far beyond that, but then there's other ones where that's just really what they are.
Right.
And they're served to do what they do, but maybe they should think about working with collaborators that could help them lift them up and work together. Like I said, I think sometimes everybody thinks like a convenience store, and they set that convenience store up on the corner and they sell everything, and they can serve everybody, right?
Mhm.
We can't always serve everybody, but people chase revenue, and I think that comes in the equation. They get possessive and they don't want to relinquish collaborating to anybody because they're fear that you're going to get your client stolen.
Yeah.
So
I know one thing we see in the electronic side of things is the shortage of employees, right? Labor. Do you see that affecting any shift in the security industry?
yeah, absolutely. I think no, there's a lot of organizations that they know it too, and they've been
Mhm.
watching it for years. When I started out in the security guard industry, it was difficult to hire security guards, although sometimes it wasn't. This in 2008 during the recession, you could get security guards that had master's degrees for $12 an hour.
Mhm.
And there was a recession, so people with master's degrees were looking for work. We're in a different economy. We're in a gig economy. Lots of other opportunities for people in security, regardless you've been outside in security guards, to make an income. So you know, um, I think with labor shortages is definitely impacting all security, whether it be laborers
Mhm.
or unqualified. Sometimes I think people that young talent that they want to make YouTube videos and they want to do things like that. They see that as a golden rod when it's not reality. They're not building any skills, so they're
Right.
not going to trade schools. They're not furthering their education with something that could launch them into other careers. So I think the labor force is strained for sure. I mean, Scott Walker, who we chatted with today, Law Enforcement Zero, he has his reasons about that. A lot of us too. We're just at a very critical spot. We have and I raise teenagers, so I kind of know it can be a difficult age space right there for their desire to grow. And
Mhm.
then we have a lot of baby boomers retiring, so we have a real critical space going on right now in all labor, whatever it even includes
Yeah.
security.
Oh, it's true.
You
It's
know.
true. Would you say buyers are still purchasing manpower, or are they purchasing outcomes?
I would say they're still purchasing manpower because that's the quicker route. A lot of times they don't have a lot of time to make these new decisions, and
Mhm.
they just don't have a lot. They have budgets and they're constrained. They've not been educated by the right people. That they've been failed. Their image of the manpower. They're looking to maybe check a box. And I'm not saying every buyer is like that, but a lot of times there's different levels of buyers, just like there's different levels of operators, right, on
Right.
both sides,
Right.
right. So I think that I just think it's a difficult spot to be in. There's a lot of pressure for them, and they're making decisions, and they want things a certain way. Behind the scenes, they're being told only spend this amount or whatever.
Yeah.
They may want more, but you never really know. Sometimes they can't come across and tell you that. They're not going to try to make themselves look bad if they're disobedient to their superiors.
Right.
It's difficult.
You talked earlier about staying in your lane, kind of what you're good at, right? Do you think that scenario affects that for moving people outside of what they should be sticking to?
Yeah, I think
Because of that.
you're saying like to be open minded, maybe for
Yeah.
people to be more open minded about what exists. I think as business development leaders or sales leaders, whether you're in a guard organization or you're selling technology, be more approachable. Stop worrying about just the sale. Be a resource, and companies need to start more campaigning for education to educate the industry.
Yeah.
And it can be at events, but sometimes the pressure's on it at events though too to sell, and they have a $30,000 booth and connections and meet the CEO and all this stuff like that. I think we do a lot of dog and pony shows, but then a lot of times the real substance doesn't get there. Like,
that's what
do they really need?
Yeah, that's where I was going with that. So, okay. So talk a little bit more about blended gardening, right? Because this kind of fascinates me. Is it just another buzzword that's thrown around, or is it, it something that's more significant?
Yeah, no, industry? Absolutely. And I joked around earlier, but it's true. Integrating tools, you're talking about looking at, like, even all the way back to the military, even the wars, soldiers, tanks, aircraft, that's integrated gardening. That's offensive,
right,
and defensive. At the end of the day, it's already existed. Mm-hmm. We're just doing it with different widgets, right? I use the word widgets or tools, right?
Yeah.
We're doing it with different tools. Maybe we do it with a drone, a robot, protective intelligence to kind of gather social media information, or local information, and to help us decide maybe what we could do and predict things to a certain degree.
Yeah.
Predictive analytics, and maybe take past events into consideration. With AI, all this stuff is available right now to gather somewhat of an educated guess, right? Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean it's the total answer, but then we strategically deploy, looking at, like in today's technology, maybe it's a drone, maybe it's a robot, maybe it's so many hours doing this. It really depends on the goals of the client and what the threat level is, and that merging up and figuring out what that is. But really just tie in this blended gardening, which some people will call it hybrid gardening or blended security. I call it blended gardening. That's just kind of the word that I used, and of just merging all these different methodologies together. And I add more stuff into it, maybe than the average security company. I'm thinking about investigations and protective intelligence and all that. I'm weaving it together a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about the 360 of an organization.
Yeah.
Kind of back to the mind, body, spirit thing. I'm just thinking about everything holistically, right? Yeah. It's a holistic model of doing security.
It has to be. It has to be.
It's not just one thing. I don't devalue the electronic side. Everything has its value. When do you need it? There's constraints to budgets. There's a lot of different things that come into play, but we got to do something, right?
Yeah.
I mean, something's got to be done. And I'm always a big advocate of, like, telling you what you need, and it's up to you to figure out what you can do. But I got to tell you that's my duty.
Yeah.
I got to at least tell you. That's criminal, not illegal, but it's criminal for me and a lot of to share what I think you should be doing.
Right.
It's not a good consultant.
No.
No,
I agree. It's interesting. You brought up drones, and it's always a touchy subject with some people, and I see it on my end on the electronic security side. Drone detection is becoming more and more popular, right? And you're starting to see a lot more activity with drones around airports and restricted spaces. Does that present any concern to you? With just legislation that's coming about, and I want to claim to be an expert in the legislation side of it and all that, that's changing on the daily for the better for the drone space in general. I think a lot of opportunities are opening up with funding. If you look at just spending in general, defense spending and improving technologies on the private, public sector and defense sector, a lot of things are opening up. So I think there's a lot of, between legislation, you'd be surprised. Like, I work around companies that have, FAA clearance to work in the majority of environments in the U.S. It's, be on the visual line of sight waivers anywhere in the U.S. with their solution. So with that said, I think getting back to your other part of it, the counter UAS space or drone detection space, probably one of the hottest growing segments of the drone space is that side of it, and one of the most puzzling, and aggressive look for solutions for that space. We look at the wars in Ukraine, the stuff in Iran and all that. We're learning a lot. I don't use the word it's a good time. It's an interesting time to be learning lessons on the battlefield that are eventually going to trickle down to the private sector. It always does, right?
Yeah, that's where I've been guarding facilities up in the secret areas of Nevada and stuff like that, where stuff was 20 years ahead.
Yeah.
And now you hear about it later. I mean, it always happens that way. The majority, I remember using things in the military that it eventually had a private application later, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Or it was shown by Hollywood first.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And think about even the shows you think you watched on TV, and like that stuff's going to come true someday.
Yeah,
and a lot of it has.
Yeah,
It's
pretty
watch
wild.
the Jetsons. that'll
Star
baffle
Trek,
you there.
any of those shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Let's talk about retail violence for a second, right? It's still a major issue, right? What do you think in the security industry? What do you think's missing?
Retail violence.
Yeah.
I think probably it's not always just tools. I think it's the mindset. I think not to get too deep into my opinions about the retail space, but I think I think I might have heard this on the webinar today where they're just accepting their losses, in the retail space, whether it be, and they don't want, negative publicity. At the end of the day, it's really about mitigating risk. Sometimes, I'm not totally speaking on the violence side, but maybe even on theft and kind of encompassing it all together, where they'll allow a certain amount of stuff to happen, maybe for the greater good of a big loss where they could get sued. I think both sides are worried about it. That side, they're worried about getting sued, potentially litigious action. So I think it comes into play where there are tools that could help, but it's still slow moving. So I don't know if that answers that question.
Yeah, I think it does. And, I guess, would that have anything to do with the fact that we are in a reactive culture and the security industry in general is a reactive culture?
Yeah, I think it's still very reactive. I mean, we don't necessarily have a lot of offensive postures, and I feel that technology can change that. Giving those real time evaluations of environments to be in essence like a forward observers, whether it be drone detection or robots, to go on offense a little bit and just detect things, and then we take that data and then create methodology to respond to it, whether with manpower or other technology or weaving in with public safety. And that's a big missing piece of it as well. I intersect with some tech, a little bit in defense now, and then some public safety, but all of it working together, more public-private, not necessarily defense. That's not working together private all that much on the daily.
Right.
But the private and the public side working together and sharing that information with the real-time crime centers and things like that, like we talked about today a little bit, that exist. And those are relationships. I see all this tech needing to kind of interface with that together a little bit better.
Yeah.
So.
Well, do you think organizations are just investing in technology strategically, or do you think they're just trying to buy the next shiny object that comes out? I mean, are they really?
Yeah. I think sometimes, you got really slick products. I mean, I get dopamine hits on what I see, and I haven't even started to sell it. I get excited because I know about the capabilities and gaps it could solve. But I think there's something to be said in the technology space to be a little bit patient as well. You really want to see case studies. There's not a lot of case studies of real manpower and technology weaving together the biggest way yet. I think that's still very new. So there's a good ways to go with that. But there's companies that, have, several hundred hours of missions working together with manpower and things like that. But there's just in general, to answer that, I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned, and we just have to put more case studies on the ground that are, get white papers written on it and just get real ROIs to go off of for future deployments.
Yeah, and I think you really see this when you go to places like ISC or GSX, right? You see everybody jumping on the bandwagon. Now all of a sudden everybody's doing this new tech. Everybody's got robots now. Everybody's got AI. So I think the market becomes so flooded with it, to your point, right? There's not enough evidence out there, to show whether there's issues with it or, not enough good data.
Yeah. There's companies that are very well funded. There's some that are not.
Yeah.
The ones that are very well funded, those seem to have a lot more attention focused on because they're more marketing and sales efforts on that side of it. But I learned this from someone the other day. It's not just it's the people and it's the technology, but it's also the compliance, right? It's about using that tool, that technology tool, or the putting it all together and making it work right.
Mm-hmm.
You could have even, use some of the people processes thing, and those even have to have compliance. If you're not regularly staying on track with good performance of it being compliant, I think it can be difficult for any technology to work if you're just making up your own rules and not really that's a lot of education once again still. And I think the technology companies are an important arm forever because they can't just sell tech and then forget about them.
Yeah.
They got to be there always on the long game, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
So yeah, with everything going on overseas with the war and just in general, right? Is there any headline from like the past 6 months that you think is getting a lot of attention?
Yeah, I think you asked about it earlier. It's that counter UAS space, right? That's just really big. I mean, we're in these war zones, and we're not foolproof with getting attacked, right? We get attacked. We have expensive drones that get detected on our side. I mean, offensive and defensive situations in these environments, and probably one of the biggest case studies to watch is just everything going on in Ukraine.
Oh yeah,
they're
for sure.
It's not always about even having the $1 million drones. They're got cheap little drones that are doing some pretty serious stuff.
Damage, yeah.
So I think that whole side of it, just that counter, it's just a real puzzling part of all environments. And today it scares a lot of people. Maybe not scared, keeps a lot of people up at night. It's probably a better way to say it.
If you, Bill, were to address a CEO of a Fortune 500 company tomorrow, what would be your top 3 priorities?
I would say number 1, practice what you preach, and what I mean by that is have a real structured philosophy of what you want to achieve, and it gets carried out from you all the way down to that last individual in your company, the lowest ranking person in your company, regardless of what you're doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I use the word operational frequency. Be who you are and promise that all the way down to that means with culture, right? Mm-hmm. And be accessible to ideas. Stay open-minded. I think there's something to be said for that. I think a lot of times people in those positions stay closed-minded. They're chasing profits. We all have different reasons for being the certain mindset, and then understanding, and it goes back to culture, but understanding work-life balance and taking care of your employees. Create the best culture around. Take care of the human. The human's going to take care of you, right? The company, the employees.
Absolutely.
And that's not there. I don't care. You can have the best tech, the best cars, the best of everything. You're not going to make it to the long run. So
that's great advice. Yeah, I wish some people in my industry would take it.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the security industry. Speaking of, so where do you see the industry in 5 years?
So I think a lot of leaps and bounds are going to be made. I feel like, the people that, I'll go on the side of what people do, maybe the side of people that don't. If you just stay in the space of just being a manpower model in the guard side of things, that you'll not make it as far as you could be because you're just going to have an incomplete model. Mm-hmm. But then if you're a technology company and you're not thinking about the manpower as well, I think both sides staying less dogmatic about what they represent. If you represent manpower or technology, realize they have a place together. Mm-hmm. And stop saying, someone sells a camera, you don't need a guard, just use our camera, save 30%.
Yeah.
Be careful how you're saying that. Physicians don't speak bad about each other, about what they do. They do what they do, but they're never speaking bad about each other, right? They're always like, well, I just do things a little bit differently. This is my approach. Yeah. Surround yourself with other experts, whether it be CPPs, people that may be non-biased or maybe sell a lot of different products, see a lot of different things. You could get biased on your one brand, think you're the best thing since sliced bread. You don't really see what's going on out there in the world, right? Yeah. I think it's very difficult for companies of tech or even the manpower side to really see what's happening out there. You're busy in your bubble.
Yeah,
When you're running
that's
a
true.
manpower, you're running a guard company, you don't have a lot of time to figure out what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
You don't learn a lot. You need to figure out a way to either get around people through collaboration or experts on your team or fractional security directors or fractional business development people that maybe just see the whole playing field. Listen to the Security Shift podcast. You might find some of them on there.
Yeah, yeah,
You know?
definitely. Well, speaking of technology, what technologies do you think are reaching a tipping point?
You mean like just fulfilled or just like in success?
I would say, yeah, success.
You know, I would say, and I think it runs the gamut of, and this might be surprising to people, I think, because I see a lot of different products, but, you know, AI, not just detection, but just AI, the capabilities of the AI, it's getting better very, very fast.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you're just a chat GPT user, you're like afraid about hallucinations. The hallucinations of just anything are just starting to get very low. Can humans make mistakes? AI makes mistakes. Humans drive the AI anyways. We created it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's controversial, and a lot of people are against AI and everything. But it's getting very amazing results where, you know, I'm around products that not only just for security, but it can evaluate workforce efficiency in a warehouse and see what processes they could do better. Or another product that I'm around reads emotions and can create predictive intelligence by seeing you in the store as a shopper, but now on the security side, evaluating what maybe could occur.
Yeah.
Nothing's foolproof, just like the human side. We don't have this all figured out, but I think, yeah, I like to use the word, you know, people, you know, think about with AI and you're writing with it to some degree. You no longer have to be the writer. Now you can be the editor. So in the security space, you no longer have to be the one everything relied upon, but now you have a helper,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, or a force multiplier, whatever you want to call it. So I think you have to have a perspective of how you use the tool, right?
Yeah.
You don't rely on any one tool.
No.
You know, you
use
use them
the
all.
whole toolbox, like you said,
use them
right?
all,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know, it's funny. We over the last however many years I've been paying attention in the industry, seen a lot of small integrators or just security companies in general popping up, right?
Mhm.
What would you say is the biggest thing that some of those small to mid-sized companies are overlooking right now?
Just being really good at a couple things. I think, you know, we all want, you know, sometimes people come to those environments for different reasons. They had a customer that just wasn't happy with their larger environment. Let's just face it, it happens. The larger guys know this. Guys and gals know this, that sometimes that bigger player just doesn't want to work, and they've been forgotten, right? And they want someone to give them that true attention, or that they just have a better mousetrap to get the job done, right? So I think the emergence of them is good. First off, they're just more entrepreneurs and want to have an entrepreneurial spirit to bring to the table. But I also think it can be negative to the point where sometimes they just want to copy what someone else did and like have your own real solution. And I keep using this word a ton, but stay in the bandwidth of what you're good at, what you can do. You know, just because you're an Army Ranger or something like that doesn't mean you can do certain things, right? And you know, but there's also to be said that, you know, let's say someone was in that space, they have a certain level of area that they do have areas of expertise. I think, you know, speaking to someone that's extremely not broad and very diverse all over the place and not very specific, I can still tell you that being specific and drilling deep and going wide later is the win, right?
Yeah.
Even myself, I mean, I know that I keep going back to that, you know, even though I'll get all over the place with, you know, things. I'm exposed to a lot of amazing stuff and people, but keeping your circle small and keeping your focus small and just doing it extremely well, scalable day after day after day is the real win, right?
Yeah, definitely. Well, what role do you see? And we talked about drones. You know, we didn't really get into robotics a whole lot, but you know, talking about AI, all those three. What do you see? How do you see them playing alongside actual security guards? Right.
Well, I think, you know, at first, you know, some people that, you know, that I'm around, that they get offended about it at first, but then they realize what it can do there. I think a lot of, like, you can talk about security guards, they're afraid of jobs being lost over that they're going to be replaced. That's kind of the mindset. And that's a mindset in the labor force in certain careers. In some places, some cases, it has been replaced. It's just, it's happening. I think when you're isolating, let's say just we're isolating the security guard space, it will take some of those mundane tasks that a security guard was never really that great at anyways, because the shifts are too long, the attention span, the noise of the world, their phone's blowing up, they got problems at home. I use that word as outside noise. It's just too noisy for them to be the best they can be. If you could work 4-hour shifts and make a lot of money doing it, that'd probably be an optimal methodology for a security guard. But in today's space, it's 8, 12-hour shifts, maybe even more, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, not being afraid of the technology and figuring out ways to learn more about that, and being better at the hard skills, marksmanship, and all the other things that might come into play with it for a security guard. Level up your skill set so that you're more valuable to those organizations. And I feel like in the future, some of the best future security firms will be ones that have the technology tools in place and effective leadership, evaluation, and management people that have been developed that understand both and working together. So it can be difficult if you're want to just kind of camp out and just not do anything about it. You probably will get replaced. But if you want to be proactive and learn how to be a better leader and how to work with these tools and become a real security professional, which does exist, there's a lot of pathways to that.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people just camp out and don't do it. I'll be a security guard all my life. Well, take initiative and learn something, or study something that you're happy with. Maybe you're not even in the space.
Right.
Fulfill your potential, right?
Yeah.
So.
It's I call it the largest, smallest industry, right? Because there's so much opportunity, and you just
there is a lot of opportunity. I see a lot of times I think the nature of the job, I don't mean literally, but figuratively, puts your mind asleep. You're watching, detecting things, and nothing might happen for
hours,
months at a time, or hours at a time. Nothing happens.
Yeah.
It's not a good. You're not winning anything. There's no gamification, and that's why I actually written articles about it, where tools need to be created to gamify that officer and their learning and maybe improving that skill set while they're doing the mundane, boring stuff. And I'm around some of that now, and I'm a big influence on that. Anybody wants to be on their board to help be a part of that, I'm game. So gamification, right? I mean, I think as individuals, if we're not challenged, we're bored in our lives with something like that, we're going to seek out opportunities.
Yeah, definitely. I became a security guard out when I graduated high school, shortly after I decided not to go to college, but, and we didn't have the technology back then, right? So I literally sat at a desk and I did my job for 10, 12 hours a day. So I know that feeling, how it can get mundane.
And I think it's, at the end of the day, it's an individual's duty on their self-pride of where they want to be, right? I mean, we can't make everybody, I can't manufacture that out of someone, right? Their level of pride and how they want to do their job. Whether you flip burgers for a living or watching cameras or whatever you do it with pride and do it well, because those traits could carry into your next position, whether it's within a guard company or whether you're running your dad's company or whatever you're doing. Just be good, be better, win each day.
And that's a big thing. You can teach just about any skill, right? You can't teach ethic.
Yeah.
Right. That's either something you have or you don't have. So let's shift over to the podcast, shall we?
The security shift.
No pun intended, but the security shift podcast. So, talk a little bit how you got into this. What made you decide you just wake up one day and say, I want to start a podcast?
Yeah. So, I'd always been a consumer of podcasts and marketing and sales. It was kind of fascinating me, right? And some people would use podcasts as like a bolt-on to a brand, very prevalent, right? And I think, meeting Daniel Schneider, connecting him through his background, doing business together, we just started talking a lot. I'm probably now, I might be on that guy's phone maybe 2 hours a day. We're just talking about strategy, not just about stuff about the podcast, but I'd met him and we decided like, hey, we're talking about some interesting stuff. We're jiving up, our frequencies are lining up. Let's talk about this maybe on a little bit more visible forum. And he encouraged, we got around other people, started meeting other people and started talking to them more and having conversations. Like, we're around a lot of amazing people. Why aren't we just like bringing those people and us to the world, so to speak, and having some fun doing it, and creating visibility at the same time. And I don't mean visibility, we're trying to be popular.
Right.
I think just visibility to evoking good change that makes sense, right? Not just, I use the word disruptive. I'm not afraid to say that to a certain degree, but disruption in a positive way, right? That gives back. When you serve, that's different than just saying you're a disruptor and you're on a high horse and using it as a buzzword for marketing or try to be cool, right? I think there's something to be said for that. So we played around with it on a very lightweight level, through some stuff on LinkedIn, kind of got, like to use the word, just some beginning level platforms and playing around with it. And then we got the opportunity to meet you guys, and we met other people too. We just started as like, hey, we have a lot. We got some breaks at a trade show and did a little bit of content. We're like, hey, there's a whole bigger picture to be had here, not just from earning money, because that's not what this is about. It's just about being in the ecosystem of all security. And I said this earlier, just hanging around cool people and doing cool stuff. Well, why don't we just talk about it more and have conversations that are meaningful, that we can meet good people in the process, learn about the best in class people, services, and products, and have fun doing it, right? And be entertained. I mean, I don't even like to use the word networking anymore. I kind of more like just deep, meaningful collaboration. And it's already been a vehicle for that, because people want to talk to us on there. We're meeting people like you guys that are take this seriously, the production side of it, and doing things what you do. It's kind of like another a leg of my career that I can be doing and give back what I've been learning in the space of my experiences, and share it on forums like this, and have some fun doing it.
Yeah, I mean, we live in an amazing time, right? We have social media at our fingertips, right? We have a connection now to the world where we didn't have 30 years ago, So I would say, what types of conversations do you want to bring to the industry that aren't being had right now, right? I think there's a lot.
Yeah. And I'm going to keep repeating, and I know people will think I'm wearing this out or whatever, but this collaboration, what collaboration doesn't mean handing you a business card, right? That means like you trust and learn that person can help you and help them become better as a professional, maybe even as a person, and do good work for the field in general, right? And just kind of give back like that. Like I said, kind of giving back. But I think that's probably the biggest thing.
Well, how did you picture, you said you weren't thinking about money aspect of it, right? So how would you picture success in 5 years with the podcast? What was your idea of success be?
Yeah, I think it's being an extension of known organizations that do well already, that we're not trying to replace them. We don't want to be an ASAS, or those are established organizations that have its role. I think becoming a respected vocal voice in the industry that gets the opportunity to not just pitch products and hang around cool people that make cool products, whether it be tech or gadgets or things that solve problems, but the people behind it, the stories, the learning, almost to the point where it's a think tank of learning.
Yeah.
And I think I think we're going to do a lot of other future amazing things with it. I mean, I think people use the words gathering data. We're not doing this to gather data, but we will use the positives from this to create maybe books and seminars and learning for future growth, and cultivate, that guy or gal getting out of the military, give them, expose them the opportunity. I think just expose the security industry to other things that they don't get to hear about or never got to hear about, instead of just saying, my buddy's a guard, or my buddy has a drone company, or anything like that, where we're just working together to help each other have a more secure world at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go off again here a little bit. What advice would you give to maybe somebody graduating high school, right? Maybe somebody looking for a career. Maybe they've looked at the security industry and said, well, I don't want to be a guard who sits behind a desk all day long, or even on the electronic side. What advice would you give to those people looking to start a career?
Yeah, I have a real world twist on this, and I've thought about this different times, all the way back to putting out little mini playbooks, little Dreamer articles about this, and it's kind of an interesting topic. So a couple things come to mind. Some of it for me is, first off, respect your family and just be a good person, right? Wake up every day, being a good person, be respectful of others. Cultivate a curious mindset to learn in the way that you need to learn. Maybe that's visually, maybe that's going to college or whatever. But I think some advantage, if I had my own personal playbook, would be maybe think about joining the military and maybe getting a career field. If you really had that end goal to be in security, you kind of knew that ahead of time, maybe join the military or get involved in some type of learning environment, ROTC, Reserve or Guard, to get that exposure while you still maybe out of civilian sector as well. And then maybe, take courses in, and I say this a little bit differently, get good at public speaking, sales, marketing, build yourself a little rounded skill set. Maybe you don't make it to the finish line in security. Now I can sell donuts or something like that. I'm just joking, but you get my point. It's an analogy, but create skill sets to be a good communicator, right? No matter what you're doing, and then gain little exposures to be any branch of the military. Hopefully you pick the right career field. If you're going to be a cook, I don't know if that's going to give you a lot of that right there, but that's one angle at that age, and then there's, with, like you said, learn self-development. Maybe look at some self-development people, there's different people that come to mind on that. There's a big laundry list. It's another topic, but find mentors, in the space, that you seek out. I mean, I was in the fitness space, picking up the phone, calling people in other states that I weren't going to be worried about being my competitor, so I could pick their brain, and just study under people that you respect. In this day of information, I can't tell you the advantages today's teenager, or just a younger person has to gather and learn information. And with AI, you could practically self-teach yourself to become a security consultant. If you really apply them. It's all about application, right? You can't just learn stuff. You got to have real clay to mold. If you don't try to mold clay, you're not going to create anything. So getting around good people that are in the space, I could go on and on, but I think you get it. There's a lot of opportunities. Those are some of them. Or you go another route. Maybe you want to be a police officer, to go through the steps to do that and go that route. I think there's different angles to get there. But I think having that foundation, not everybody knows right off the bat that they want to be. But I think there's a lot of roads to go that a lot of times people will be a security guard. They work a post for 2 years. They're 21 years old. Oh, there's no road. I only make $22 an hour. But what were you doing while you're doing that? They were sitting on a post when they could have, I'm not telling anybody to do this, but you got an earpiece and listen to podcasts all day long, not ours, or maybe, talking about cool stuff and learning, right? Just learning. Yeah. I mean, if you want to transform yourself overnight, going back to your question about starting at ground zero, you want to transform yourself in another career, the opportunity to gather information in our fingertips is ridiculously massive, right? We could transform, but we're interested in what we're interested in, but you could do it if you have the intent, right? So it's a cool time to be able to do that. I think, people could hack a lot of time off of lessons that me and Daniel learned because of they just have a lot of information. There's PhDs waiting to be had. You just got to go find it and build it yourself. Build your own.
More opportunities than we had. That's for sure.
No, absolutely. We have to get books and all this and be around. We're not even, I can't get on a video call and match up with someone on LinkedIn. That's some of my biggest wins these days. I'm learning from people all the time. I have a pretty known LinkedIn presence, but I talk to those people. I'm just telling everybody right here, I don't have 9,700 connections just to look cool. I talk to these people and I learn about what they're doing, and I'm curious and they're curious about me. And it's kind of almost like I'm not working sometimes, you know what I mean?
Yep.
But I do work and I do get stuff done, but it's just having cool conversations. I'm about as curious as I've ever been. So.
All right. So I'm going to talk about a couple of things. You tell me first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah.
Okay? So what's one word that describes the security industry today?
Opportunity.
That's a good one. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
What's the biggest misconception about security?
Laziness.
What's your favorite leadership book?
21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, John Maxwell. It's a great read.
I have to read that one.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Here's a good one. What is the best sales advice you ever received?
You know, I think, I'm not even really sure I could say it. That's a good question. Well, I mean, always be closing is always something in my mind from movies and things like that. But you always be closing, I guess. But it's not no one gave that's from, it's from, we all know that's from a movie and stuff like that. But it means different things, right? Sometimes it means preparing for that to get to that spot. I don't mean like this hardcore car salesman all over you. When I mean preparation of the right steps for that right customer to close a sale. It doesn't mean you're being pushy or like that. It means taking the methodologies to educate that customer that not what they need, but that product can help them. I believe in that, but I think I have a lot of depth of context to that too.
Yeah.
It's not all it seems like you see it on Wolf of Wall Street and all these other things where this is aggressiveness, close, purposeful sales.
Yeah.
That's
a good way to put it. I like that. Purposeful sales. So now that you're in the podcast space, who would be your dream podcast guest? You can pick anybody.
I've been, it really got me watching podcasts a lot more. And at the beginning, it was Joe Rogan because of his style. But more recently, the more emerging because I think the topics and his style and just the amazing guest, Sean Ryan. It's just a really relaxed format. He has the most amazing guests. I mean, they're very long episodes for a good reason because he's just very successful. But he really, not just the guests, but just amazing topics, and the content is just purposeful. It's meaningful to today's security persons. If you're in a security space and you're sitting around on a post and you want not whether you're allowed or whatever you want to do, that's up to you. Not endorsing listening to anything when you're on a post. If you're going to do something instead of scrolling on your phone, listen to a Sean Ryan podcast. You're going to learn something.
Yeah, he's good. I like.
And they broach all the topics these days: human performance, security, defense. Obviously, a lot of leadership lessons to be gained out of it, right?
Yeah. So I love your energy, right? You have an energy about you. So are you a coffee guy or an energy drink guy?
Coffee in the morning. Sometimes a cup or two at home, or I have a local Starbucks where I'm kind of known a little bit, and I mosey over there and have one. I go do a morning walk at 5:30, 6 in the morning. I've liked coffee since I was 12. We talked about that. So I only put cream in it now, not a bunch of sugar. I don't want it to turn it into a dessert, and I don't drink the dessert drinks. That's my wife that drinks those. But I do like the energy drinks too. Yeah. And I like the ones that have like nootropics in them and stuff like that. Now
they're starting.
There's the Gorilla Mind or whatever. There's that one. It's in a little hidden section of QT. You don't always see it.
I don't think I've seen that one.
But I like that. I like the ghosts. Those are good ones.
Yep.
I like them both, but I probably more coffee. Yeah.
So you're obviously an early bird, right? Are you a late night guy too?
Not anymore. I never. No, I don't. I think I went to bed last night at about 9:20 because I knew I was gonna be driving to Santan a little bit early to meet Daniel Schneider for breakfast and meet up with you guys today. So for the most part, no. I get sleepy when I'm watching a show at pretty much 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. But I like especially in the summertime here in Arizona, right? It's just amazing the sunrise and whether it's warm or cold, just being up early in the morning, especially in the summer. In the winter, it's harder to get up.
Yeah, definitely. All right, and on a serious question, what is the biggest risk you've ever taken?
I think the biggest risk is actually happening right now. Mainly because I say that is I do get opportunities to go back to just working with someone and maybe doing well doing that. But I think in today's space, what I've built with Daniel professionally and personally, and what I've done, I have a lot of influence to help people, and I think that when I say today is the biggest risk, there's the most opportunity to win too. So I think that's part of it. But Right now, being an entrepreneur isn't always easy, right? There's ups and downs, and in that. So I think that's probably I've been an entrepreneur for really off and on for quite a few years. In the fitness business and in the security space, more recently the security space, 9 years. So I wouldn't say I'm new to it. But I think right now maybe the stakes are higher to elevate to another level and scale maybe where I haven't been before in my life.
Yeah.
And I think that opportunity, there's just a lot going on, a lot of good noise going on, a lot of opportunities. And how do you sift those out? What makes sense to you and your family?
Yeah.
So.
Well, I wish you luck in your endeavors, and go check out the Security Shift podcast. They're on YouTube and LinkedIn, and soon to be on other platforms as well.
Yeah.
If anybody's got questions or want to reach out to you, where can they reach you?
So I would say my easiest room to find me in the world is on LinkedIn. Whether DM or message me, and that'd be one of the most vehicles. And then I have a couple websites, couple companies, but probably the easiest one is www.integratedsecurityconsultants.com. That encompasses private investigations and then the security consulting or sales consulting, just all things security.
Yeah.
I like to kind of keep it simple. I have too many emails and websites as it is, but reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm accessible. I look at LinkedIn probably more than I drink water. So it's a lot. You'll find me on there, but find me on there.
Yeah,
I want to talk to you.
We'll put those links down in the description, absolutely. And don't forget to go like, share, and subscribe to the Security Shift podcast. You won't regret it. A lot of good conversations on there. And it was great talking to you. It was,
absolutely, man.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Absolutely.